All right. We're going to get a little vulnerable for this episode because, like everybody, there's so much going on. I believe for me, this is probably the hardest and just most I've had on my plate in since I started my business pretty much. Jess and I both have our businesses operating. We both have the podcast that we're building multiple products at the same time. And it really does, it's hard not to feel like you're behind. There's so many projects that we had planned. And when you get into that daily kind of grind, it really does feel like you're truly just on a hamster wheel when you're stuck there. And I have to always remind myself, I'm not lazy. I'm not doing it wrong. I'm not missing a secret that somebody else has figured out. Even when I do have that reminder to myself, it still is heavy, right? Things can still feel a little funky. And I think it's important to kind of name that. So I think that's what we're doing today.
Yeah. So today we're going to be helping you name it and also helping you identify because you can feel stressed, but not knowing what the root cause of the stress is can kind of keep you stuck. And what we've kind of seen from working behind the scenes in a ton of women-owned businesses, working in our own business is kind of a pattern that there's kind of three forms of business stress and they each have kind of a different remedy. So today we're going to be talking about what each of those forms of stress is, the why behind it, and then most importantly, once you recognize what it is, how you can shift into kind of attacking that. And I think sometimes even these pieces of stress come up. You might be experiencing all of them. You might be experiencing one of them. One of them might be more than the other. But the most important thing is recognizing it, identifying what the root cause here is, and then taking the steps to fix it. That's what we both did our Q2 planning and reflection. And we're like, oh, this is what's going on right now. Now we know what we need to do to fix it. So let's get into it.
So I think the biggest worry for a lot of people, or the biggest cause of stress, is that financial worry, right? That revenue roller coaster. If you don't have that predictable, kind of consistent ecosystem for yourself, this is the one that keeps you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's the one that makes you kind of feel that guilt or shame when everybody's sharing their little Stripe notification posts and all of that. And I think what's actually happening here is that it's not necessarily like, oh, I can't pay my bills or anything like that. There's so many different points of this. In business, there is an expectation of a little bit of inconsistency, I guess, just because you are managing everything, right? You're taking on new clients. And, maybe one month you have a really great month, and then the next one is slow. And then the next one you kind of are panicking. And that's really that revenue roller coaster. Jess and I have seen this time and time again when supporting people with launches. And maybe you feel the pressure to do these quarterly launches or monthly launches or whatever the case may be, just to maintain and fill the same amount of clients in that period. This is something that I've helped my clients have to get through because you cannot rely mentally, you cannot rely on quarterly launches to give you everything. You know what I mean? Would you agree or disagree with that,
Yeah, no,
Jess?
I mean, I definitely agree. I was telling Rachel earlier that I'm training Claude, my new operations assistant, and I kind of made a meme on accident. I didn't really mean to make a meme, but we were going through my business, my financials, what I sold in the first quarter, kind of doing my quarterly review. And he was basically like, you talk a lot about client attraction system, but you have not really fully set this up for yourself. The three new clients that you got might have been just a little bit of luck, and you're still not at the place where you can consistently. He was so mean to me, telling me what to do. He's like, you're still not at the place where you can say, I do this, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and I get a client. So that's kind of what our goal is. We just came off a huge talking about client attraction ecosystem a lot, and that's kind of what the goal of that system is, that you know that there are pieces that you've put in place, there's a routine, there's a system, there's a rinse and repeat formula for consistently bringing in new clients, and this is what's going to help make your revenue more consistent. Sure, maybe you'll have good months, you'll have bad months, but it should kind of level up where it's not feeling like, well, last month I made $15,000 and this month I made $5,000. What the heck? My sister's kind of a newer business person, and I'm the older sister that kind of has to bring you back down. And she was telling me, oh my gosh, I had this amazing month. I think she made like $18,000 in revenue in 1 month. I'm like, that is amazing, but don't go buck wild and spend all of that, because
Right.
you need to be building up these reserves. And also, I know that you don't have a consistent client attraction engine that is
Mhm.
bringing in people. So until you get to that point, you're never kind of really going to find that stability.
Yeah, I've always said this to anyone I talk to that's coming at me and they're like, "Oh, well, I have a really good referral system. I have a really good launch system." And I think we do in any investment portfolio, you have to diversify your lead generation. You have to layer it. And the same way that you can layer and compound your content is the same way that you should be doing for your lead generation systems, right? Your marketing, if you're only primarily on Instagram, you have to have a conversion strategy in your email list because you can't be selling 100% of the time on social media or else the algorithm will eat you alive. So, really making sure that you have those layers of diversification so you can say, yeah, maybe once a quarter I do a webinar and that's how I get some like new quick turn kind of leads converted. But then the leads that are those tortoises, and if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know I've talked about tortoise and the hare. You have to have systems designed to convert both of those people to really steady the ebbs and flows of this sales goal and all of that. And it's hard to hear while you're living in a state of financial panic, but you really have to be able to dig yourself out of this one particularly because you really can't make good strategic decisions when you're constantly feeling the doom and the dread of needing to make your next client or needing to find your next client. It really is impossible to get off of the roller coaster when you're living in mental energy.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of my moment was no one's coming to save you. Me and ChatGPT, we had this conversation about, my financials. I'm making a lot, but my lifestyle, I have a very expensive lifestyle. And he was like, look, Jess, these two are not matching up, and you just hired this VA who's a big chunk of your expense. And if you don't get out there and start making this system happen, you're going to be living under the bridge. No, he didn't say that, but basically he was like, you got to kind of even this out a little bit. So what am I doing? Going back, building the system to make sure that I can consistently support this new, really big expense of a VA that I brought on to be able to do that so I can pay myself and her.
Wait, 0 out of 10, don't making your ChatGPT or your Claude mean because, like, emotionally, I think that adds to your stress.
I didn't do it on purpose, but I was just like, I need you to be real with me, and he might be a little too real right now. So he's gonna have to go back
Yeah.
to retrain. All right, moving into the next one. This is definitely something that maybe I'm doing all of them because me and Rachel were definitely both know we are stressed right now. And as much as we talk about systems, this is one that I've been doing too, is mental overwhelm, which is the full brain. What's the remedy of this is really having your Notion systems. I think what's causing a little bit of this for me is that I'm doing a lot of transition and trying to integrate AI more into my business. But as I do that, it's kind of breaking the way that the systems used to operate for a minute. So a lot of my time has been spent trying to just get Claude, who is my AI of choice right now, to work well with my Notion so that I can kind of get everything out of my brain and into a system where I'm not having to find everything. So I'm building a very mean agency operations manager right now, where if you're a freelancer, you're probably at the same setup of me. If I'm in 6 different Slack workspaces, 4 different Notion workspaces, we've got meetings all the time. We've got Rachel stuff. We've got my stuff. So right now I'm basically training him to go to all those places and gather up all the to-dos and the notes and the
Yeah.
deadlines and put it in one spot for me, because even though I've got zaps that pull things were still going missing just because I have so much going on. So coming up with a system, whether it's brain dumping. I've started doing that at night too, because I found myself waking up or not being able to go to sleep because my brain is going with all the things I need to do. But just taking a moment to, I'm not a morning journaler, but I think I might be a night journaler because I have been able to pull out my journal at the end of the night and
Mhm.
like brain dump everything out. And just doing that, it's amazing what it does for your sleep.
Wonder if the artist way would work in the reverse, where it's right before bed, you do your evening pages or something like that. But no, I'm the exact same way. I've hired Jess. Jess has been in my business many, many times where she knows this is my biggest struggle because I don't know what my resistance is to adding a freaking task to my task manager. But I'm like, no, 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 I'll remember, says the person who forgets literally everything in my life unless it's duct taped to my head. But it's one of those things where you have to externalize your brain. And Jess has probably beat this over in my head 100 times. We need to get that out of there. We have to be able to look like weeks in advance to say, okay, we can push this, or realistically shifting all of the various things that are like, if we're going back to our planner and we've made our weekly blueprint, Mondays are my admin days or Mondays are my catch up days. I'm not going to put a task due, or if it's stuck in my brain, I'll probably forget about it until it's on a Monday. And you're just setting yourself up for so much overwhelm and failure if you wait, kind of hold it in your brain
Yeah.
too long versus being able to shift things around. It gives you so much more fluidity to say, actually, I can't handle that right now, but it's actually not due for another week. Thursdays are my deep thinking days. I'll put it on that day.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just task. I mean, it can be your processes, your passwords, your ideas, just having a space for all of those things to go. So you're not eating up your cognitive energy by trying to remember where all those are. Also, it's impossible to delegate if you're
Yes.
living off of sticky notes or bullet journals, or my clients love notes apps. You need a proper project management system, and even if you don't want to go into Notion anymore, Claude connects to Notion. One of the fun things that I do now is I'm experimenting about how to integrate this wonderful new dude into my life is he has the talking feature. And on my
Mm.
way home from driving carpool, I'll just sit there and brain dump everything that's on my mind so that he can start putting it into my Notion into the correct spaces. And then what I'm realizing now is just you have way too much on your plate, Jessica. You just need to take some back. That's going to go into the planning thing that we're going to talk about next. But it's just getting everything out of your brain will reduce so much stress and creating an organized system for where everything lives.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move to our third root cause, which is that energetic burnout, which is a direct result. These are all kind of compounding onto each other, right? So if you struggle with one, then you're most likely going to trigger another one. And so that energetic burnout is that living in this super reactive mode. I try my best to get all my clients forward and thinking a month in advance so that what we're doing has time to incubate, what we're doing has time to make an impact. Really, if you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out, what am I even working on today? What type of posts do I need to make? Like, oh, shoot, I need a client, so I can't nurture. I got to jump straight into sales. And all of those things really do create this energetic burnout because your system is just in fight or flight. And you have to be able to reset that. In this super, super busy time for me, I have gone back to my super consistent meditation schedule when I start to feel this panic of, oh, shoot, I have so much to do, which isn't a bad thing, but I need to approach this in a super intentional way so that I'm not putting myself in this like burnout where I'm tapped at all ends. Cause you're always going to have so much to do, but you have to be able to do it intentionally, impactfully, instead of just constantly living in reactiveness, because that takes a whole nother level of stress into your body.
Yeah. And I mean, the way to get out of this mode is planning. So
Mhm.
many different ways and think of going about planning. We did a episode a real long time ago about the meetings you should have with yourself, or the 5 different meetings. And when you're finding yourself in this reactive mode, you cannot plan enough. I mean, it starts with annual planning or weekly, monthly planning, weekly planning. But one thing that's really been helping me as I'm in a busy season with us and the podcast and us trying to really monetize it this year. And then I have a bunch of clients that are going through huge changes in their business is that end of the week planning and review. Even if I don't send it to my clients, doing a weekly client status update. What got done this week? What needs to get done next week? What is blocking me? And that sort of thing, sending it off to clients, but that also helps me get clear of what's in deck for next week. What do I need to get ahead of? Now that I'm learning how to work with this VA, what do I need to give to her so I'm not making her crazy by giving her things that are due 24 hours
Mhm.
later? How can I get ahead of it? And I think doing it on Friday, I've gone back and forth where it's like, sometimes I'll do it on Monday. Sometimes I tried doing it on Monday and I'll try doing it on Friday. Monday, I'm already in panic mode. I'm already behind. I need to do all this stuff. But Friday, it's great because I can get everything out of my head, see what, actually didn't get done, and then really look ahead to Monday, which I've now not, Monday is not my CEO day anymore. Thursday and Friday are now my CEO days,
Yeah.
to where Monday I'm going in and, I have meetings with clients first thing in the morning on Monday. So I'm more prepared for those. And then the afternoon on Monday is really getting into the client work and not having to start from scratch. So I think with this, it's just one, protecting your time to plan. Know that you're probably going to have to experiment. Everybody's business is different. You may meet clients on different days. It's kind of like a dance of figuring out what's working, what's not working. And that's with all of these things of stress. I think for so long, I actually held myself back because I was worried about burning out and getting stress. But it's not something that you're ever going to avoid in your business. It's something that you just have to learn how to recognize. And
Yeah.
maybe you start to recognize it faster and faster and faster. And now that we've given you this framework, maybe you've got a framework to see what the root cause is, and you're able to get in there and fix it before it manifests into complete burnout.
I mean, I will also say in everything, be patient, give yourselves a little bit of grace in the sense that if you look at me from baby business owner Rachel, when that clock hits 4 o'clock, I'm shutting my down, I'm closing my laptop. I was like, I'm not letting this turn into a 9 to 5, blah, 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 blah. And now when I'm outside of my Henry window, I go, okay, 8 o'clock. My brain has time to think. Let me log on for 30 minutes and get something done that I am passionate about, that I want to get done. So, just in this sense that if you have some rigid rules for yourself, you have a CEO day on Monday, but you are self evaluating and reflecting on this, maybe we don't hold ourselves super, super rigid to that schedule. Adjust. Everything in your business is made up by your own rules, and really making sure that you respect those and hold yourself accountable, but also work with yourself and not whatever the people on the interwebs are saying that make you think I need to be Monday locked in. I'm not locked in on Monday. Monday, I show up and I go, what can I get done so that I can feel the best prepared for the rest of the week? Because Monday's not my lock in week or lock in day.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking about this the other day too, because I watched a video and it was talking work-life balance, work-life integration, that sort of thing. And I think we started this business to have flexibility. I have to remind myself all the time that I started my business to be able to take a yoga class with the teacher that I wanted, that I never used to be able to go to because I had a 9 to 5. And this class is in the middle of the day at 11 a.m. And I'm like, nope, have to be at my desk at 11 a.m. because I need to shut my laptop by 5. And I'm like, hell, go take your yoga class at 11
It,
o'clock. And if work for 2 hours later in the night because you took those 2 hours off, then that's why you built this freaking business for yourself.
All right. So let's kind of tie all of this together because I think what's really important is that when you look at all of these three things, the financial worry, the mental overload, the energetic burnout, they're not siloed issues. They're not random in any particular reason. They are holistically connected. And the cause of your revenue being unpredictable, it's a domino effect. You start to make your decisions out of fear. When you're moving in that fight or flight period, your brain, when it holds and contains everything as your own operating system, it's really difficult to expand. It's difficult to make, intentional decisions. And then just all from that reactivity, you can't catching up to yourself, and that is really impossible. And All of these three things really feed into each other. And so, what we don't want is for you to be that business owner that's treading water. You really want to this infrastructure underneath you. And then I think the best thing that you can probably take away from this is that that foundation, that infrastructure, it's fully buildable. It takes some time to pause and to maybe say no to a few things as you're building, but it really is possible to get to a place where you're not chasing and you're just kind of attracting and revenue feels predictable.
And so if you're in a spot right now, we talked a lot about stress. We gave you a couple of little things to fix it. And we definitely have all the products that could help you fix this. But sometimes it's hard to figure out what it is or where do I start first. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of where I was. I'm feeling stressed, kind of feeling all of these stress, but where do I start? So what we built was it's a new little assessment. It's called the Lifers Business Audit, and it just takes 2 to 3 minutes to fill out. And what it's going to do is show you kind of where this biggest stressor is, direct your attention there first. So you're able to start to kind of dig your way out of this. Or if you're not in it, keep yourself further and further away from burnout. So the link will be in the show notes. Go down, take it out the episode, come back to our Instagram, tell us what you got. We'd love to hear your feedback. And if this episode hit close to home, make sure you send it to a business bestie that needs to hear it. Make sure you like, follow, review. We'll be back next week. Until then, we're
We're rooting for you.